Be ready. Start. The system of settlement of disputes through arbitration is becoming popular, particularly after the enactment of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 (STOP). It contains provisions for resolution of disputes by way of arbitration and conciliation (STOP). The Act of 1996 is unique in its nature as it contains comprehensive provisions on various issues relating to domestic arbitration, conciliation, international commercial arbitration, etc. (STOP). The main objectives of making this legislation are to make comprehensive procedure for arbitral process, to provide that the arbitral tribunals give reasons for their award, to ensure that the arbitral tribunals remain within their limits of jurisdiction, and to minimize the supervisory role of courts in arbitration (STOP). The working of the Act is laudable, and almost every contract on any issue is having arbitration clause, and the parties are feeling ease and comfort because of vast powers given to the parties and arbitrators without much intervention by the court (STOP). However, certain loopholes are there in the Act 1996 (STOP). One of such defects is that the Act 1996 does not contain the provision for removal of biased arbitrators (STOP). Another anomaly is that it gives unfettered powers to the arbitrators to make the award without any time limit (STOP). Resolution of disputes through arbitration is better than through litigation (STOP). Arbitration is one of various legally recognized ways of resolution of disputes between two or more parties (STOP). Arbitration is also one of the various alternative dispute resolution methods such as mediation and conciliation (STOP). The arbitrators are chosen by the parties, and the decision made by the arbitrators is binding on the parties (STOP). Unlike the settlement of disputes through the help of the court, in which long delay and huge expenses are involved, in the case of arbitration, the outcome of the process is to a large extent in the hands of the parties (STOP). The time, place, procedure and jurisdiction of the arbitrators are decided by the parties (STOP). For a dispute to be referred to an arbitration tribunal, the prime requirement is that there should be an arbitration agreement between the parties (STOP). The arbitration agreement can be either part of the main contract or a separate contract in other document (STOP). Under Section 28 of the Indian Contracts Act 1872, agreements in restraint of legal proceedings are void (STOP). However, an exemption has been carved out in the same section that a contract will not be become illegal whereby two or more persons agree that any dispute which may arise between them in respect of any subject shall be referred to arbitration (STOP). Moreover, with the amendment of Code of Civil Procedure in 1996, the role arbitration and other ADR methods has become more popular (STOP). In accordance with Section 89 of the Code, if the court finds that there are possible elements of settlement, it will refer the matter to the parties to formulate terms of settlement and submit the same to the court (STOP). After receiving the formulation of terms of settlement, the court will refer the matter to arbitration, conciliation or judicial settlement as the case may be (STOP). One of the main objectives of enactment on arbitration and conciliation is to minimize the supervisory role of the courts in arbitral process (STOP). The statement of objects and reasons emphasized the objective of minimization of the interference of the courts in arbitration process (STOP). In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the interference of the courts is very limited in matters relating to arbitration except in specified circumstances (STOP). Courts do not come in the way of arbitration matters at all from the commencement of arbitration proceedings till the arbitral award is made (STOP). It is to be noticeable that Honorable Supreme Court, while laying down the law that in contempt jurisdiction no positive mandatory direction can be issued outside the scope of the order which is being alleged to have been violated by the authorities, has elaborately observed therein that the purpose of contempt jurisdiction is to uphold majesty and dignity of the courts of law. It has further been observed that the Contempt of Courts Act has been introduced for the purposes of securing the feeling of confidence of the people in general for true and proper administration of justice in the country. Honorable Supreme Court has further held that it is to be kept in mind that the court, while exercising the jurisdiction to punish for contempt, does not function as an original or appellate court for determination of the disputes between the parties, and thus contempt court is not entitled to enter into questions which have not been dealt with and decided in the judgment or order, violation of which is alleged. The ratio of the said judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Rakesh Prasad is not being disputed by the learned counsel appearing for the respondents, and in my opinion as well, it cannot be disputed. It is not in dispute that the contempt court cannot grant any substantive relief or issue any direction in respect of the same without proper adjudication of the dispute. If any such mandatory direction is issued which is outside the scope of the order of or judgment which is said to have been violated, such a direction would be without jurisdiction and would not be binding. Having observed as above, what needs to be considered in the facts and circumstances of the case is as to whether the direction issued by the Honorable Contempt Judge in the order dated 9th April 2012 directing the Basic Education Officer Ambedkar Nagar to continue with single-hand operation of the salary account can be termed to be a direction without jurisdiction adjudicating upon an issue, or it would be construed only to be a direction issued in the aid of the High Court for ensuring compliance of its order dated 14th December 2011. The circumstances in which the order dated 9th April 2012 was passed by the Honorable Contempt Judge have been noticed in the said order itself. At the cost of repetition, it may be observed that even after passing of the order on 26th March 2012 directing therein single-hand operation of the salary account, payment of salary to the teaching and non-teaching staff could not be ensured, and in fact a dispute arose during the court proceedings before Honorable Contempt Judge on 9th April 2012 when the check as presented by the Basic Education Officer was returned back to him, noticing the dispute between two managers. In such a situation, I am of the considered opinion that the direction issued by the Honorable Contempt Judge for continuance of the single-hand operation of the salary account in the order dated 9th April 2012 was not a direction issued by the court on its own. It may also be noticed that on 9th April 2012, when the order was passed by the Honorable Contempt Judge, at least two writ petitions, namely writ petition numbers 1081 of 2011 and 1244 of 2011 were pending, which in fact are still pending, where substantively that issue raised is in respect of the dispute concerning management of the institution. Keeping in view pendency of the aforesaid writ petitions, it was only observed by the Contempt Judge in his order dated 9th April 2012 that single-hand operation already made by the District Education Officer Ambedkar Nagar would continue till disposal of the writ petitions pertaining to the dispute of genuine manager of the college.